Can you hear me? Hi, everybody. My name is Tobias. I'm going to talk about some experience from the game industry and how I almost survived it during my years. I'm the CEO of Pellegrosso Entertainment Group, the same company as the former speaker here, Johan. And let's see. So what I'm going to talk about is what I've done since '96 when I joined this business. I'm going to trade you some tips and tricks from how to develop games, basically, project management, and some experiences. And you may also get some stories from the games that I've been part of developing. And the question is really, because if you look at game development today, people say, you know, those guys, they're just sitting in a basement and they're drinking a lot of coffee, Jolt Cola, Coca-Cola, and it's hard work, 16 hours a day at least. But my question here is really, is that a case? Does it need to be like that? Or could it be in another way? I think it can be, but I've learned the hard way, so I'm going to share you with some of these methods to make a game production actually be a more regular business than working night and day. First of all, I'll start with who I am. But before I do that, sorry. I want to just take you back to 1996. When I joined the business, this was kind of the games that were available out there. And I just browsed the net and were looking for what kind of games was I actually playing 1996. And I remember me and my wife was playing Mario Race on the Nintendo 64 quite a lot. This one. Remember it? So maybe I should check here. What's the kind of age group here? Or how many of you guys are 30 or above? And I assume the rest of you are less. Okay. This Duke Nukem was a great game, and I enjoyed it playing it a lot. When you look at it today, because in my mind, when I started looking at these screenshots from the old game, I was like, wow, this game was like the best game ever when it came, and when you look at it today, it's like, it looks like something on a mobile phone. Another game that came in that era was Quake, of course. Great game, and now they're up to like Quake 4. I didn't get the best screenshots, but you know, when I see these pictures, I get like, wow. That's how it was. I spent a lot of hours playing this stuff. And just as a contrast, okay, this is Quake 1. This is Quake 4. There's been some stuff that happened the last 10 years. I mean, games have gone a bit better, like old one, new one. It's quite amazing what we achieved during these years. Also, if you look at this is a screenshot from Tomb Raider, the first Lara Croft game here. And I remember this scene in the game was like amazing. You had the water going there, and it just looked very, very good. And I just want to point out the minimum requirements for running this. Pentium 60 megahertz, that would be good. 8 megabytes of ROM. It's like, you know, 8 megabytes of ROM, and it's like you have more on your mobile phone today. It's like, what's going on? But if you put it in perspective, this is only 10 years ago. It's not that long ago. It's quite amazing what happened, right? And some other games that we're playing at this time, because 10 years ago, the business wasn't really that young. It's been around for quite a while. And some of these games, like FIFA, still going. A new game every year. The one there in the middle with the mermaid and that little guy there, it's this Larry character. Let's Just Shoot Larry, and that's game number 7 in that series. Today we complain about publishers are not innovating; they're just releasing the same kind of games over and over again, and there's no innovations like in the good old days, like Let's Just Shoot Larry number 7, 10 years ago. Okay, I'll jump on to tell you a bit about my story. First of all, I started as a programmer in Sweden, in Stockholm, and the first games I was to produce and that were sold were these. There was no 3D. They were not really that cool. But they sold very good, actually. We made these games for a local Swedish publisher, no, they were kind of keen on getting into selling games to girls. And it was a huge success, actually. These games were exported and sold in other countries as well, and did really, really great. So even though it didn't really, in the beginning, build my ego as a game developer, you didn't really, I'm a big, cool game developer. I've been doing some horse games. They sold really good. It was great fun. But it was really hard work. First of all, this was my first job in the industry. And the other guys I were working with, we didn't have any experience. We just did it from scratch. We started with a project plan, and it all went to hell, and we were working day and night. I remember one night, I think it was the one game to the right there. I was sitting, I had a deadline, 9 a.m. in the morning. The publisher was going to get in and look at the game, and certain parts of the game needed to be finished. So I was sitting there working really late, and I figured that I'm going to work the whole night. I'm going to be here working until 9 o'clock when they arrive, and I'm going to show them the stuff. So all-nighter. But I started feeling really, really sleepy, and I kind of my eyes just closed, and I was like, woke up again. I was like, oh shit, I'm really sleepy. And then I started feeling like something in my forehead. It's like hurts here. And then I watched the clock, and it's like, wow, 2 hours have passed. What have happened? And then I went to look in the mirror, and I had a mark from the keyboard here. So I actually fall asleep on the keyboard like that for 2 hours. You don't perform very good job at that point, but that's how it was. I did a lot of shildering games, and the good thing with these games were that they weren't very long in production. So from every game, you learned a lot, and maybe the production was like 3 to 6 months, and you could start over a project again and say, okay, we're going to do this different. Next time, we're going to think about this. And that was really good. I think that if I joined the business and had like these 2 years projects, it's not as easy to learn from your mistakes and do it better the next time. It's really good with these short projects in that sense. But then finally got around to do some real games. And I got to learn to know some 2 guys who, when they still was at university, they came up with this idea that they called Battlefield. And they started a company called Refraction Games, and I was like the 5th employee there or something like that. And at that point, they'd been trying to sell Battlefield 1942 for a while. That wasn't called 1942 at that time, but the original idea they had with Refraction Games was to create this multiplayer open environment game. And we're talking like 97, 98, and everybody was like, every publisher they talked to, multiplayer only game? What planet are you guys from? Like, it's not possible. It's never going to happen. Like, and they were talking about having a massive amount of people playing against each other, like maybe even more than 32 people in at the same time. And I remember they told me when they were pitching this to a publisher, they had a demo where you could play quite a lot of many people against each other. And the publisher had a technical director there who was in on the pitch, and he just said, "No way, it's not possible to do." And the guys who were pitching from Refraction Games said, "Well, you know, we have a computer here, we can show you it works." He was like, "Nope, no way, it's not going to work." So they just took the computer and went. And it would be really cool to meet that guy today. And he was like, "Yeah, but it didn't work out, you know." So anyhow, what happened was that nobody thought that a multiplayer game would ever really hit, even though there were some indications that it could be cool, even like 97, 98. So we got to do a single-player game called Codename Eagle. Have anyone played that game? Up with raise your hands. Usually it's somebody who actually played Codename Eagle. Codename Eagle is known to be like the game that came before Battlefield, and we learned a lot from doing that. And I think actually in retrospect it was good that the team got to do Codename Eagle before we did Battlefield. It was a single-player game, as said, but it's really cool because it was released '99, if I don't remember. Yeah, '99 it was. And at that point, you could do in single player. You were driving cars, you were flying planes, you were driving boats, you were running around, parachuting, doing all kinds of stuff. And I think that was pretty unique at that point. But the game was really bad. You know, we didn't. Same thing here. We were a bunch of like 12 people. And myself, I did project management, I did sound design, I did script programming. You know, everybody, it was just a mess. And everybody worked very, very hard. I remember one of the programmers, he started bleeding out of his nose, and I was like, "Ooh, dude, that's not good." I was like, "Yeah, it's probably because I haven't slept for like 2 days." So, and I think that's why the game was so bad. You know, we really didn't have a clue about how to work in a decent way to get a good result. But what we did in the end, because we really wanted to do this multiplayer experience, we put in 4 maps with a multiplayer part, and it got really, really successful. And it became kind of a small Codename Eagle community out there. And they really enjoyed playing this multiplayer experience. And from that community, we learned a lot that we took to Battlefield later on. And also, they really supported the development of Codename Eagle. We released several patches to make the multiplayer be more fun to play. And at that point, Refraction Games had been acquired by Digital Illusions, or DICE. Digital Illusions was a company situated in another town in Sweden, Gothenburg. And their whole name is Digital Illusions Creative Entertainment. And I'm going to say DICE from now on. So DICE acquired Refraction Games. And the guys in the Stockholm office, the old Refraction Games company, they got some other stuff to work on. These guys from the Codename community, they said, "We really want these patches." And the programmers at DICE, they said, we don't have the time, sorry, we can't really support it. So they said, "Okay, if you're going to work overtime to give us these patches, you know, we're going to pay your food." So I'm like, "Okay, sure, but how are you going to do that?" And it turned out that one of these guys in the community, he was actually living in Los Angeles, but he knew a guy who had a pizza place in Stockholm by some reason, I don't know. So basically what happened was that when the guys were, you know, they felt like, "Okay, tonight I'm probably going to work overtime here and do some patching," they just sent an email to LA, and you know, those guys got the email, and they just called the pizza guy in Stockholm and said, "Okay, 3 pizzas to this address in Stockholm." It's like, okay. So that's pretty cool. So my position came to be studio manager of the Stockholm office of DICE. And basically what that meant was that I was responsible for that office, the productions, the people, and the budgets and everything. And I reported to the CEO of when I started as a studio manager, we had one project that really gone bad. It was Rally Sport Challenge. Anybody played Rally Sport Challenge on Xbox? Higher up, I want to see it. Sweet. What do you think about the game? Good. Not as good as Bugbear's games, right? Okay. When I started as studio manager, the Rally Sport project was really going bad. The producer was like burned out, and we were pretty, in a pretty bad shape. The game was the only unique title to be released for the Xbox when the Xbox was released in Europe, which was like March 2002. All the other games that came with the European launch of the Xbox had been launched in US before. So this was the only unique one. And Microsoft were just telling me, this game can't be late, we need to deliver. So we worked very hard. I took over the producer role of Rally Sport myself, and we just cut features. We took away a lot of things, like in the beginning we were planning to have nighttime driving in Rally Sport, but we cut that, we really cut so many features out from the game. Still in the end, it was a really good game, I think, and we took that feature list that we had cut, and we said, okay, let's do Rally Sport 2. And we did basically all those features in the other game, Rally Sport 2, later on. But anyhow, we worked some crazy hours during Rally Sport as well, but we did some stuff right, I think. For example, I remember we had some really big problems with knowing where we were with the graphics production, and we started getting every artist together. So we said, you're going to be in 9 a.m. in the morning, then we have like half an hour meeting, everybody's going to tell where they're at, and we had this big whiteboard where everybody was just, we had every person and what they were supposed to do, and when they'd done that task, they just put a marker there so we could actually see on that whiteboard, okay, how is the production going? How are we doing here, production-wise? Later on, I understood that we were basically using Scrum, or which is a project management method that are pretty, popular today. But we did by the force of actually realizing we were in deep trouble, and then just ask everybody in the team saying, okay, what should we do to figure this out and actually don't have to work every weekend? We got it together in the end. We run into some pretty strange problems as well. We made a script that could test the game. In the production, we had several Xbox dev kits that were running the game by themselves. So they were just starting a track, and then this script was smart, so it drove the car to the finish line, and then started again to see if there was any memory leaks or so. And we got one crash that occurred like about approximately once every 48 hours. So if you were leaving the dev kit alone for 48 hours, it's like 50% chance it actually crashed. And it was a really bad crash, it just froze. And with an Xbox game, you're not allowed to have any stuff like that. The game needs to run for at least 5 days in a row without turning the Xbox off, without any crashes, to pass the Microsoft certification. They're actually sitting there and testing that for 5 days. So we were like, okay, this is bad. And we figured out the crash was actually not our fault. It was in the direct sound part of the game, which was done by Microsoft in the drivers. So we get hold of the guy at Microsoft, and they were like, in the beginning, it's like, no, it's not our fault, blah, blah, blah. But in the end, we got them to understand it was their problem. And then we found a guy who was like, good stuff. Great that you have found this error. And it turned out that they've had that in every game before, like Halo, first Halo. Same problem there, but what was special with our game was that it occurred pretty often, like maybe once every 48 hours. And they could actually fix that error thanks to that, and we got a hot patch, and we got the game out there in time. But all the other games actually that already been released on the Xbox at that time, they had that problem already. then we worked our asses off, shipped the game, and the whole team went to Cancun in Mexico and celebrated for a week. That was good. Then of course, Battlefield. The Battlefield game was made in my studio at DICE as well. That team was also working very, very hard. In the beginning, even EA, who was the publisher of Battlefield, really didn't think that would be such a big game. They didn't really, put that much marketing behind it. And it was really at the E3 2002 when we showed the game for the first time, it really took off. And I remember we were really disappointed from DICE as well, because they didn't put the game on the show floor, on the big, where every, publisher have their big booths and, play these cool movies and PlayStations and so forth. But we were in a special little room off on some sort of conference area. It was really lame. It was like, damn it. But it turned out to be really good, because in the big, on the floor, show floor, it's almost impossible to hear if somebody's standing beside you and trying to explain the game, because it's so loud. And it's really, really messy. And it turned out that people were just kind of coming to our little conference room there, and the rumors started spreading about this really cool game. And we had like 6 computers where people could play against a whole bunch of testers that were sitting back at EA office, and were playing as a opposing force there. So we got some really good battles going, and we had what's his name, an actor, Robin Williams. It's actually you know Robin Williams, right? Short guy. He came in there because he's really a big gamer, it turned out. So it was just crazy, and we thought that, wow, Battlefield could turn out to be something really, really good. And it did. In the end, it did. The team was amazing, though. They worked so hard. But also, they worked so hard for such a long time. So I remember in June, I was sitting down with them, June 2002, and they were saying, we're working crazy hours. So I was like, okay, sure, I'm gonna check how much you're working, because we had a time reporting system. And then I saw they were just they worked so much, so they just felt like they were, so tired. So because they were so tired, they need to be, the reason to that was probably that they were working a lot. There was not a single guy actually working overtime in May 2002 on the project, except the guys who were the leads of the project, the lead artist and lead programmer and so forth. They were working like 300 hours per month. So they were just totally out there. And the team got themselves together and worked a couple of 2 other months and got the game out there. So we got some critics in the beginning when we released Battlefield, like, why do the patches take such a long time to get out there? And so basically because the whole team was on like 1.5 months of vacation because they needed it. Then we won some great awards. The pictures there you see is from a show in Las Vegas called Interactive Achievements Awards, which kind of like the Oscars for games. And it was Battlefield was a big success, and we won 4 awards. We got like best online game, a multiplayer game, sorry, best innovation in gameplay, best PC game, and best game. And it was just amazing. Like nobody ever got one single game had never got 4 awards at the same award before. So it was just fantastic. And I remember after the whole awards ceremony was finished, there were people coming up to us from DICE and saying congratulations. And I saw in the distance there that that's Will Wright. He's actually coming this way. I was like, wow, cool, Will Wright. I'm gonna shake my hand with Will Wright. This is gonna be cool. But also I got worried because Will Wright at that point, he's made The Sims, of course, SimCity. I thought like, this guy's probably don't like violence, right? His games are really nice all the time. So I was like, shit, I wonder what he's gonna say. I got kind of nervous there. And then he just came up and said, congratulations, really good. Me and my daughter, we play this game every night. I was like, oh, cool, how old is your daughter? She's like 10 years. I was like, okay. So that was cool. Okay, so what happened was that DICE became a big success, of course. The company grew a lot. My office, when I started as studio manager, we were about 30 people, and when I left DICE, the office in Stockholm was about 160 people. So a lot have happened during those 4 years. A lot of that was because we merged the two studios in Stockholm, or in Sweden, into one. And I worked a lot with business development during the last years there. I thought that was really funny. It was really, really fun, not funny. And then of course you heard that EA put a bid on DICE, and I thought, I don't want to work at this big corporate thingy going on. I'm just gonna, do something else. So I left about 1.5 years ago and founded the Pelagroso Entertainment Group. Basically because I think it's fun to work with people that are trying to build something. I like to build things up from the beginning. Today we're working with small development teams from like 2-3 people. We're doing live arcade, Xbox Live Arcade games. But we also work with a studio with over 70 people with a big AAA game. So we do all kinds of stuff, but it's what I enjoy with this is really taking things from the beginning and build it up. So that's a bit short about, not very short, but that's about me. Now I'm going to move into talk a bit more about project management things that I've learned during my years. Are there any questions in regards to what I just told you that we could, take right now? There's going to be some time afterwards for questions as well, but somebody have something want to ask? Nope, good. I'll move on then. So, game development. What I learned is that it's really, really difficult. And sometimes it feels like you're fighting this big dragon. It's not possible to get hold of it. But the more you learn, the more armor you get on, the more better weapons and so forth. You get better routines and processes, and you learn to fight this stuff. But then there's the next project, and it's on a new platform. It's a next-gen thing. It's a bigger team or whatever, and it turns out that there's always some unexpected things happening that you really didn't think about. That's really pain in the ass sometimes, but it's also great fun because I think that's what makes it so fun. You never know what's going to happen, what kind of problems you're going to run into, and that keeps you on the edge, and it's a good challenge. I'm the kind of guy that wouldn't, I couldn't stand being in a factory and just producing stuff, the same stuff every day. So game production, I think, is great. And I'll give you 6 advices now. If you're working with games production, I think these 6 points I'm going to make can help you in your process of creating a game. So I'll let you read that Dilbert script there. A very important thing is to have the right people on the team. At Pelagroso now, I'm working with several teams that just, friends that got together and said, well, let's do a game together. And after a year or so, it turns out that they're friends, right? But they're not the perfect team. The guy who's the project manager, he maybe became the project manager because nobody else wanted to be that. And, it's really important that you actually question, do I have the right people on the team? Are we really, really professional in the things we're doing? And be honest to yourself and your team. Because what happens if you don't is that you're going to make mistakes, and you're going to have to pay for those mistakes by working long hours, right? So one of the biggest problems with long hours, I think, that you're not skilled enough to actually plan your actions, your work, good enough to avoid overtime. Really important thing. Now '96 when I started, there weren't that many people around actually who've been working with computer games development in Scandinavia. Now, in the whole Nordic Europe here, especially Finland and Sweden, there's a whole bunch of people that actually been in the industry for a long time, and it's a bit easier to learn and get going. So let's talk a bit about small teams or big teams. What's the difference? If you have a really small team, it's kind of easy. I mean, if you're 5, 6, maybe 7 people, it's really hard to make a AAA game, right? Really hard to maybe create some cutting-edge technology. But you can use some third-party products. You can license an engine, and you can start doing some really sweet stuff. You can also be very, very effective, because if you're a really small team, everybody can talk to each other and you know, keep track of what's happening in the project, and everybody can contribute to the project, right? You just sit down, take a coffee, the whole team is there, 7 people, and you just talk about what to do next. It's really easy. So why doesn't all game projects, you know, work that way? Yeah, well, you know, because when it starts to be over 8 people, you know, it gets too crowded. It doesn't work. So when you turn out to be like 15, 30 people, you need to start to have some really good structure on your team, right? So you need to have somebody who's responsible for the graphics, the art, somebody who's responsible for the programming, somebody who's, you know, have the overview, like the producer, who's kind of overviewing the whole thing, and maybe is the planner. And the medium team is you know, it's quite easy. Say you're in the Rally Sport project, we were 23 people, and you know, we had our problems, but you could get by, right? And you could gather everybody in the same room, and you know, pretty easily, you know, get the whole team in there. But when it starts to get really big, like for example Battlefield 2, when Battlefield 2 project was at its peak, was a bit more than 60 people at DICE in Stockholm working with it. And then there was, of course, things outsourced to other companies, graphics, for example. So, I mean, there was a huge project, you know, and on the EA side, there were a whole bunch of people involved as well, testing and so forth. And when you start having like 100 people in your team, maybe they're not even in the same office, but even say that you have 60 people, it's hard to get like a conference room and gather everybody and say, okay, so where we're at, you know, what's happening now in the project. You know, you get a whole different situation. And you really need to start to structure your work. And this is the point where you really need to have skilled people in here. Because if you're making mistakes with 60 people, you know, it's going to cost you. There's a lot of people and a lot of time that can be, and time is money, right? So a lot of money that can be lost. Johan, who talked before me here, he mentioned this. We call it specialist game development or network development. This is an alternative. If you're a small game developer and you're really skilled on programming, or you have a bunch of people that are really, really good on creating graphics, maybe you should get together with some other companies and create a game together. In Pellegrosso, we're working with some clients and doing this kind of projects, and it seems to work very well. These are people who don't want to, you know, be a big corporate thing. They want to have a small team, a small, you know, group of people, 5, 10 people, and they don't really want to grow because it's a risk to them. But you know, getting together with another team at the same size, they can actually do some really nice stuff. So that's an alternative that I think we're going to see more and more in the future. I was talking about time is money, and things can cost things. If you're going to create a budget for your game project, and you're going to pitch that to a publisher, say, you're not going to do a big budget in Excel with, okay, so we're going to need to buy computers, and then we're going to need office shares, and this is our rent for our office every month, and you don't do that. That's not what you give to a publisher. What you give is how many man months, how many guys working for 1 month are you going to need to complete the game, and what's the cost for these guys per month. So in the computer consultancy business, you say, well, I'm a consultant, this is what you're going to pay me per hour. In the computer games business, we're like, this is what you're going to pay me per month. That's much cooler, I think. In general, what you pay for a game developer per month is about $10,000. So, I think that's about 7,500 euros, something like that. It's a bit cheaper, and that's kind of a reasonable pay for one person. So, in that amount of money per person, there is everything's included. So you take your whole cost base. This is what we pay for computers. This is what we pay for management, for administration, for software licenses. Take that everything together, and you divide it with how many people you are, and that's actually how much your company is costing per month. And then you add what you need to have extra to make a profit from this, and that's how you come up to this man-month cost. So 7,500 euros, probably pretty okay, decent figure. If you have a team of 60 people working, and you become 1 month late with your project, that's a lot of money. So if you have this 60 people team, and you say, damn it, we missed this deadline, we're just going to work for another month, that's like 450,000 euros. That's more than I earn per month, I can tell you that. So you really need to keep control of your planning and your costs in a product. And make some extra slack there for you. Some other costs that people don't really think about when they start developing a game. If you want to own your own IP, that's the thing, right? So we have this great game, and we're going to own our own IP, and we're just going to use a publisher to distribute this game. You're going to have to pay for protecting this IP, and it's a lot of money. That can cost you 50,000 euros per year for 4 or 5 years to actually get that IP registered worldwide. And if you're sued, it can cost you a lot more, because maybe somebody is using that name, that brand already in some stupid country, whatever, Tanzania. Then you're fucked up in Tanzania. You can't really sell your game there. You need to change the name of it. Sales. Somebody needs to be around selling this game to publisher. That costs people. That costs money. You need to pay for lawyers helping you out with the legal part of deals and so forth. And a classic in the business is you plan your game, right? And we're going to be finished with this game at this point, and then you start working, and then suddenly the marketing department from the publisher shows up and say, hey, we need to send out a demo. It's like, oops. That kind of stuff costs extra, right? If you don't plan with it from the beginning. And also, if you have your team working overtime, you need to pay them for that. At least get them pizza and Coca-Cola and stuff like that, so they get by. Keep control of your costs. Then we have the planning itself. This is a classic, the project triangle. So what I mean with balanced planning, and you may recognize this, this is a classic project management thing. If you don't have enough resources to deliver at a specific time, at a specific goal, you need to change something. So these things needs to be in balance if you're going to reach the result you want. So, for example, if you're working in your project and suddenly somebody says, well, we need to change the goal a bit, because suddenly, you know, there's another game here on the market that have these features, and we're going to add these features. So if you go then and change your goal in the middle of the project, you need to change something else, right? You need to either add more resources or you need to add time. It's pretty simple, right? But it's really difficult to do in the real life. A typical game project could be consisting of 4 major parts: high concept, pre-production, production, and testing. And testing, I wrote in Swedish there, see. My advice here is, you know, you can't really start a game project and think you can plan it to the end. You need to do some kind of rough planning. For example, for Rally Sport project, both for Rally Sport 1 and 2, we had this idea about what we were supposed to do in the end. But we weren't planning more than a milestone ahead. So for every milestone, which occurred every 6th week, we did a detailed planning. There were no idea, no reason to do a detailed planning for, like, okay, what are you going to do in 6 months' time? Because that program may be, you know, programmer who should have done that, he maybe got sick or left the company or something like that. So we just did it like 6 months ahead planning. Some advice on planning: don't do tasks that are smaller than a half a day, because it's just difficult to keep track of, and not bigger than 2 days. If you hand out a task to somebody and it's like 3 days, you know, the human brain, at least for me and a lot of people I know, maybe it's, you know, there are some other people out there that I don't know who can actually handle bigger tasks than that. But often you go like, okay, cool, 3 days. Yeah, I'll do that tomorrow and the day after that. And today I'm going to do something else. You know, you kind of get lost. 2 days is okay. You know you're going to be finished tomorrow. So break everything up in at least 2-day tasks. And the people who's doing the planning needs to be the guys who are actually performing the work. Like, together with the project manager, you can sit down with the programmer or artist and say, okay, this is what you're going to do, and that's when it's going to be finished. And if you don't, you know, if you just hand out the paper to somebody, hey, so you're a programmer, I heard, here's what you're going to do until next week, right? You know, that guy's like, what the, are you telling me what to do? I don't want to do this, and he's going to be late, right? Something's going to be screwed up. You need to involve everybody in the planning and follow up on a continuous basis. And I met some project manager, and I know myself when I was, you know, started being a project manager, I felt like, this is no work. You know, I'm used to sitting there in front of my computer and do things all day. And I'm just running around the office and you know, talking to people. That's not work. But it really, really, really is. It's being a project manager is full-time work. But it can be difficult coming from doing something else. So my nice little phone thing here stopped working, so we'll do this. Another important thing is be ready to cut, kill, and, you know, die. You know, you shouldn't die, but cut and kill things. What we've done with, for example, Rally Sport, and that's what they suppose to do if you're using the project management method called Scrum as well. Keep a priority. There can't be any task that is as important as something else. Something needs to be the most important thing in the whole project. And actually, in Rally Sport, we had like a project planning with like thousands of tasks, and there was a priority among all of them. So we knew how long each task was going to take, if it took like half a day or 2 days, and we knew how many, you know, days we had left in the project, you know, based on the deadline and how many people we had in. So we got like a cut line. So we knew that we're never going to make it these other features, because this is the only thing we're going to be able to do. And we really cut things out. Kill your darlings. Basically, for example, in Rally Sport, we wanted to have nighttime racing, because that was supposed to be really, really cool. But it was clear that we weren't able to pull it off. and at least to do it really, really good. It took some convincing for both Microsoft and the team, but finally I got to kill it. And I think the reason I could kill it was that it wasn't my darling. I joined the project later on, so it wasn't a darling of mine, but everybody else was like, we need to have this. But it wasn't possible, really. So you need to help each other in the game, in the project, to say, maybe this is like a darling to you, but we need to really, really cut it, you know. Look beyond your feelings. And then, the person who's going to die is Microsoft project. If you ever use that tool, and you could probably use it as a very good project tool, but it doesn't work out for me, at least, because I think if you're going to use a tool to do your planning, it needs to be easy to update it. It needs to be very, very easy for everyone to look at that planning and say, okay, where's we at? What is I'm supposed to do? And where are we in our project? Microsoft project doesn't work like that for me, at least, so that's why. I think that product have really caused a lot of hassle. Some people may use that, but you know, you can use Excel, you can use post-it notes on a wall or whatever. In Battlefield 2, we had like the programmers were actually using Microsoft project, and the artists were using post-it notes on a wall. So and that was the same project, but the artist team, they used what they thought was good, and the programmers were using what they thought was good. And you know, it's really up to, you need to ask yourself, you know, what tool is best for planning for us. You don't just use Microsoft projects because you're supposed to. And also, be really, really honest to yourself and talk in the team about what do you guys feel. I faced teams that's, you know, when you talk to them in the team meeting, they're like, okay, yeah, sure, we got the planning. Yeah, everybody's like, okay, well, let's get back to work. And then you go and take some coffee, and then somebody shows up, and they say, like, you know, we're never going to make this, right? It's like, why didn't you say that at the meeting then? It's like, you know, I don't want to, you know, I don't want to be the one who kind of is the whistleblower here. But that's, you really need to create a team spirit that where everybody is, you know, can say, I don't think we're going to make it. What could we do about it? Because if everybody in the team is not on the same page when it comes to deadlines, you're going to miss your deadlines. So it's really, everybody needs to kind of sign off and really, really believe it, else you're not going to make it. Another really important part is saying, this is the design. Use modding as an example for creating your next game design. If there's a game out there that almost does what you want to do with your game, you know, use that game and mod it to see what you can do. In Battlefield 2, we used our previous game, Battlefield 1942, and we did mods in Battlefield 1942 to see if, you know, what kind of new feature would be fun to play with in Battlefield 2. And it's really no shame to do a thing and then just throw it away. Because in the first part of a game project, in any project, you're just testing if it's fun or not, if it works. You're not going to be able to reuse everything you create in the beginning. So be very clear that, you know, we're creating this to test if it's fun. If it's not, we're just going to throw it away. If it's code or if it's art or whatever, you know, you should be ready to do that. And really use the beginning of the project to experiment and test some crazy stuff. And in the beginning of the project, basically no idea is bad. Use brainstorming and so forth to see if there's some cool new ideas that could show up. And some people in the industry claim that there is no uniqueness in the new games coming out. There's no cool new features or game genres or whatever coming up. And I don't really think that's true. There are cool games coming out all the time. But some people are just trying too hard to create a unique game. And actually creating a unique game is not very difficult. I could do that on 15 minutes here, but it's going to suck. The hard part is doing a good game, you know, a really, really fun game. So don't, you know, overdo it on the uniqueness. That's my advice to you guys. You know, focus on creating a fun game. A tool that could help you do that is CRUDE. When you have a game design, you could use this, 5 words to help you figure out if this is a good game that's probably going to sell out there. So CRUDE stands for credible. Are we really capable of creating such a game? Could we as a team, it's a great idea, but maybe we're not really able to do it. Is the consumers out there that want to play this game? Because maybe what you're creating is a tech demo, right? Nobody's going to buy that these days. It needs to be something that consumers actually want to play. How unique is it? And unique in the sense, will people think it's something new, cool, that they want to have and buy? It doesn't mean that it's going to be something totally freaked out. For a long time, will it actually stay unique? Will people just say, wow, that's cool, and then don't want to buy it because it was just kind of a flash moment thing? They want to really keep on buying the game for a very long time. Like Battlefield, I must say, is one of the games that EA have had that been selling for full price for a very, very long time. I think it's sold at the full price in the stores for about 1.5 years, and that's like a world record. Usually, a game sells for full price 6 months and then goes down to some sort of lower price. And maybe it's a great idea you're having, but it's really difficult to explain why it's so good. So this is important and well explainable. Some development practices to finish off here. You should always be able to play the game. In any, wherever you are in the game, in the project, you're supposed to be able to play it. Because if you're not, you don't know if it's fun or not. So don't have any programmer or whatever say to you, the rendering is not finished yet, but it's going to be about at alpha. So there's just a couple of 6-8 months here. We're not going to be able to play the game, but that's not good. You need to be able to play the game every day. Iterate, which means do it all over again. Small steps and visual steps. Oops. Get a group of specialists together. So if you're going to do a car, for example, get the guy who's going to program the car physics, the guy who's going to, the artist that's going to do the car meshes, and maybe the sound guy, and the designer is going to tweak the car. Get them together and work on this for like a month or so. And a task is never finished until you actually can play it in the game. You can never say, well, the rendering is done now. Okay, but I can't see it. No, so we don't have the graphics cards to support it, but it's really cool. Then it's not finished, right? And my last advice is to, if you're starting up your own production team or game development company, get some people in there who've done it before. Or if you can't hire them or whatever, use them as some sort of advisory board or something like that. There's a lot of people out there that really can help you with advice these days. And be honest to yourself that I don't know everything about this business. I mean, I've been in this business 10 years and I feel like I don't know shit. I ask people about advice all the time, and it's really, really difficult. You can't expect somebody to have all the answers. So ask around and really use the advices you get. So if you're supposed to develop a game, get the right crew, get the right team together for it, get an understanding of what it's going to cost you, and be prepared to take that cost. Have a great planning in place. Know what you're supposed to do. Get the design clear to everybody involved. Get the team together and get the team to sign off on development practices for the project. So you don't have like one team working in one way and another team working another way, unless it's everybody's okay with it. And get your tentacles out there and find some people, some partners that can help you with advice and so forth. If you use those 6 advices, I think it's going to be a bit easier to avoid overtime and drinking coffee and getting keyboard marks in your forehead and so forth. That's pretty much everything for me. I still have like 60 seconds or so for if there's some sort of question. Yes. So the question is, and correct me if I'm wrong here, were there anything specific in that project that we would have done differently? Yeah. In Battlefield 1942, that's one thing that was really clear. We were not very good on this one. Get the design clear for everybody. And I think that was the reason why Battlefield 92 was released after it was supposed to be released. Even in the last months, people were debating whether it should be a simulation game or an arcade-ish game. We should have gotten that straightened out a long time ago, and I think that would have made people work in one direction instead of several. So that's one thing there, I think. Okay. Anyone else? Then thank you for listening. I'm going to be around here for a while. Then I'm going to sneak back to Sweden later tonight with a big red and white boat. But thank you for listening. It's been amazing being here and seeing everybody out there playing games all the time. It makes my gamer heart glow. I'm going to get here next year and get here in time to be able to sit down with my computer and play. So thanks, and take care.